I don't think there's any voice yet, except now there is. Everybody hear me okay? Okay, great. Well, we might as well go ahead and get started. Let's see, we had a few, I guess one follow-up item from last week. There's some discussion about what the status of reading to attachment points was in uploaded meshes. And I dug into it a little bit more, and the answer is that it's sort of inconsistent. We have one set of rules that we're using in our viewer, and we have a slightly different set of rules that we're using for validation on the back end. So the server says that uploading meshes rigged to attachment points is okay, and our viewer says that it's not okay. Obviously we don't want to leave it in that state. We want to get the two reconciled, but it leaves it kind of ambiguous what the correct setting actually is. So I need to do a little more digging into the history of the whole discussion around which way we were trying to do that. I know there was a lot of talk about it back during Bento development, and I don't remember all the details at this late date, so I should probably take a look at that stuff. If anyone else has, okay, Jira's are good. Yeah, if anybody else has any Jira links or salient comments, I'm happy to discuss it. I understand that the original motivation for rigging to attachment points was basically just that we needed more bones and we didn't have them. So that made sense. Now we do have a lot more bones, in the standard skeleton that were introduced for Bento. So the question is, to what extent it still makes sense to be rigging to attachment points. Of course, we don't want to break existing content that rigs to attachment points, and we're not planning to change anything there. It's just a question about what gets uploaded going forward. Um, one reason you don't really want to be rigging to attachment points is because you don't want to be moving the attachment points around in arbitrary locations. The whole idea there is that you want the attachment points to be at the places where you're going to be attaching things to them, which isn't necessarily the same place you want them to be if you're trying to, move the mesh around a certain way. Yeah. Okay, we have a couple of interesting points here. One about being able to update old content that's rigged to attachment points, and another about being able to make clothing for avatars that are rigged to attachment points. Those are both good points.
Is this really a big issue? I know we talked about, or at least I talked about, animating attachment points, but I don't know of that many things that have things rigged to attachment points.
I'm
There are a few
assuming
major
at this point it's mostly legacy content that's doing that. I don't know that for sure, but
there are a few early mesh avatars. I know for a fact. I think what is it? The Solarian cat. There are some other avatars that are like that are rigged with using attachment bones, and you can't make any clothes for it or you can't make clothes for some of those things. Yeah, with the tail wagging and before Bento happened. So if you want to animate it or not make clothes or something and have it rigged properly, you can't do it because it's like, hey, you got attachment bones. Turn that.
yeah, that's a good point. I think at least recently that has been working in Firestorm, right? It wasn't getting enforced by it wasn't getting banned by our servers, and so as long as the viewer supported it, it was okay. Is that correct? Okay, no. Uh, Firestorm broken. How recently was 501? So was that an intentional change for 501, or was that just something that happened in the process of working on other stuff? Okay, well, I mean, given that it's been working for quite a while, whether or not by design, it probably there's and that there are some backwards compatibility use cases for it. We'll probably just leave it alone on the server side. I'll look at. I've actually filed a JIRA, so at some point, possibly during the animated object development, we'll try to get a fix into the viewer so that the viewer is enforcing consistent rules to the server, um, and then hopefully other folks can pick up the same changes, and we can go ahead and move on to other things. But if you're building new avatars, please don't rig them to the attachment points, okay? Let's see. I had a question about the crazy bone scaling animation. The crazy bone scaling animation, I did a little bit of digging into that, and uh, it looks like there's some kind of rotations that are stored in a way that's not normalized, and so those can be treated as scaling, but they don't seem to get treated as correct scaling. So the way it works wouldn't actually be useful for implementing a proper scale, but it does seem to serve fairly well to kind of blow stuff up. So yeah, I don't know if we should be doing a little more throttling on that stuff when we're doing during the upload process, but um, or conceivably during the playback process. But I haven't heard that it's a problem in general right now. Yeah, I think we have non-unit quaternions, which is a little non-kosher. Question about attachment points for animated objects, Animesh. We have, uh, yeah, those probably. I mean, it's got the same skeleton, right? Um, the animated objects have an instance of the same skeleton that the avatar does. So I think anything that's rigged to attachment points would work just as well for those objects as it would for the avatar. We're not including attachment points in the sense that you can attach additional things to animated objects, or maybe attach animated objects to your animated objects, or yeah, I don't even want to think about it, but um, but the attachment points are there as joints, and so I think the rigging stuff is probably fine. Question about something like spinning wheel. So the idea there is that you've got a static object that's attached to an animated object, and it can kind of do its thing and spin around or whatever. I'm uh, Lucy, I'm not quite seeing what a faux attachment point is. Is there a JIRA for that or any kind of description? Let's see. One question: could you, for example, use Avi as a pet if it's rigged to attachment points and volume bones? Yeah, probably. It's not. I think in terms of the behavior of the rigging, it should all be the same. Um, just a question of whether we support other aspects of it, like do the collision volumes actually act like collision volumes, and can you attach things to the attachment points and so on. Okay, yeah, Lucy, if you want to add that as an amendment to bug 100864, that's fine. It's just good to have some kind of a persistent record of this stuff, rather than just whatever discussion we had in the meeting. Let's see. Someone mentioned that our link to Second Life Avatar Skeleton.zip is busted. Okay. First, I've heard about it. Does anybody know where we link to that or how long it's been acting up? Okay, thanks. I'll see if I can find out what's going on with that. Hopefully, we've got a copy around somewhere. If we don't have if we don't have it at the old location. Yeah. Okay. Beck mentions that there's a Google Doc coming talking about scheme for proxy mesh rigging. Sounds good. I'd be curious to take a look when that's available. All right, so let's see what else is going on. Asset HTTP viewer has been out for a couple of weeks now. I haven't heard anybody saying that the universe has exploded, so I guess that's good news. But as usual, let us know. There's issues there. Um, let's see what else is going on. We're still working on bakes on mesh. That is the main thing that Anchor's been focusing on recently, and it sounds like he's making some good progress on getting a updated baking service uh, working with the increased text resolution. So that's good news. If that all checks out, the next step there would be to do some performance analysis to make sure that increasing the resolution isn't going to cause all of our bake servers to fall over, and do we need more of them, that sort of thing. Um, let's see what else, and then we have. Oh yeah, Alex Ivy sounds like it's coming along quite well at this point, so I look forward to seeing that go out. I think that should make a big difference for anybody that has 64-bit OS. You'll be able to run the 64-bit viewer, and there'll be a lot fewer issues with things falling over due to running out of memory, which is probably our top cause of things falling over currently. Inverse kinematics by LSL function. No, not really. I understand, that what you're trying to do there, and it seems like it would be useful, but I don't have any kind of specific concrete thoughts on what that is supposed to look like, or how feasible it would be. I'm not even sure exactly how that would work, since you know, the joints, the server doesn't know where the joints are, right? It tells you, okay, go play this animation, and then your viewer locally positions your joints according to whatever animation you were told to play. So, there's not really any way that the server itself could go and do math on the joints and say, okay, the joints are at these positions now, but they should be moved into these other positions. Um, yeah, so I mean, the best you could do would be to just sort of be treating the server as a kind of an intermediary to pass along the request, and then the viewers have to do the actual work. But yeah, you know, it's a it's an interesting suggestion, but just haven't had any time to think about it recently. Let's see, we've got a link for a proposed UI change in the mesh uploader. Change default to load from file for the various LODs. Okay, why do we want to do that? Yeah, I mean, I encourage people to make their own. I don't know. Currently, people seem to be defaulting to not making them at all, which isn't really what we'd be encouraging with either default. But they seem to be finding a way to do it anyway. You know, it's been a while since we did the mesh stuff, but I expect that the reason we made the generate the default was just it gives developers or content creators a kind of a path of least resistance that they can get something that kind of works without having to do any extra work. You stick a give us a link to, they've already made their one file, and then you stick up a link saying, hey, go make some more files. They're probably going to say, hey, wait a minute, I don't want to do that. But certainly if they do that, they can get better results.
Maybe the real issue is that they're allowed to change them. If they were just given these default LOD settings and they weren't allowed to change them, then to get a better score, they'd have to make their own. Instead, they're allowed to screw with the LODs, which the generator's not going to make a perfect LOD anyways, but because they're allowed to change them and lower them, they get these crazy low land impact scores.
Yeah, well, certainly the way we score the land impact and the upload costs shouldn't penalize people for making good LODs, and that's something that we can change. But I'm not sure that's the only factor. I think some of it is some combination of just sort of folklore and standard practice. In the extreme case, we could just as you say, just take out the option. You specify your file, and we make the LODs on the back end, and they're as good as they are, and you can't do anything to make them better or worse. How happy would you be with that state, Medu? I mean, you obviously do a lot of detailed design on your avs. Do you think that the defaults are good enough for distance work?
Well, you know, ultimately I would want to always make my own, but I kind of, when the LOD generator came out and how it works and everything, I think it's in many ways brilliant because at least every mesh is getting LODs. Now, whether they're good or bad is, hard to say, but I think having it generate it itself, I mean, we could have a world that does all that in the background and we never touch it, and then we could get terrible LODs. I mean, there are worlds that do that, but I think the way Second Life does it is perfect. It's just, you can't force people to make LODs.
Yeah, so it does seem like there would be cases where doing it that way would there's probably quite a large pool of things out there where you're actually gonna get better behavior by having forced LODs, but on the other hand, that the people who do have the inclination and the knowledge to make their own can certainly make ones that are a lot better, and are going to be disappointed if they don't have that level of control. And they're just throwing these out as ideas. I don't know how to fix the LOD issue, but it's obviously a problem, and it's something that we've kicked around various times in these meetings.
I
Yeah,
do
I agree.
think
Changing the accounting is part of the solution, Polysale, but it's I don't know. I don't think that's probably a complete solution.
I do think that the lab could eliminate some of the lowest settings, like make it the LOD's default to like 100 being the lowest, and that would force people to have to make their own lowest LOD and not try and cheat it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's still easier to make 100 triangles in a flat sheet than to make 100 triangles that actually approximate your shape. I mean, the people who don't want to make an LOD are not necessarily going to do a better job just because you set some lower limit on the poly count.
Oh, and anybody looking, we don't have proper LODs on this cat yet. I usually don't do that till the very end.
What is it doing currently? Just using the defaults?
Well, I use a modified default because I don't want to pay more than I need to upload something. So
Yeah. Yeah. Is there any way to fix the LODs on an existing model after it's already been uploaded? It seems like that stuff's all baked in, so to change it, you would actually have to go back to the source DAEs and redo the whole upload process, wouldn't you? I'm not sure if there's a way to force the viewer to show specific LODs. You can certainly change the threshold for how eager it is to switch to the coarser LODs. It is possible that if we change the price function, then some people would want to put in better LODs and would want a way to do that.
I don't think that would change anything. They'll just cheat it like they do anyway. Maybe chop the body up, or like let's just say it was a body or a high poly body. They'll just chop it up into pieces and be like, oh, well, see, now it's lower and lower. And then you'll have multiple parts of one giant mesh when it could have just been one giant mesh.
don't increase the cost. I'm on version 35 of this cat, so
You're just talking about the cost of the upload rather than the land impact.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Comment
and it
about
doesn't help
larger.
for people who are going to other, like that first time going to the beta grid and they can't sign in, so they got to submit a ticket. It's just like, well, forget it. I'm just gonna pay up and upload it on the main grid and keep testing it out. That can be a pain.
So the problem is just that you run into issues with trying to get stuff to work right on a DD.
Well, I love that the beta grid. I don't have problems over there.
I mean, we certainly have had more problems on the test grids, including a DD, than on Agni. Getting those to be consistent is one of those sort of background things that we try to make better over time.
I don't think it's more or less the stuff. It's more or less getting people to get onto it. You'll have people who are just starting out the build and never even heard of the beta grid, and then they want to go over there and they can't sign in.
No, their account
So
just hasn't been ported over yet. Yeah.
yeah, so that's always a big block to getting people to create. Like, oh, what the beta grid? And I gotta submit a ticket, and it's gonna take like how long? A week? Then you're like, ah, forget it. The project has passed. I moved on.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly what we have it set to now, but I thought we had some kind of automatic thing where it would copy you over without you having to file a specific request.
Yeah, I know. I just been telling people that.
Okay, well, yeah, I agree. If you have to talk to support when you first want to get on the beta grid, that would be kind of a drag. Yeah, I think there would, certainly you could imagine various ways to make the LEDs themselves more apparent. It would be nice if we could show them all in the upload dialog in the mesh. It would be even nicer if you actually had pictures of them in the marketplace listing. But those are obviously all longer term things. There's not going to be a change on that stuff immediately.
We should at least have polygon count in our listings.
Yeah, that would also be a good one.
The preview window was scalable in the beginning. You scaled the whole window, and the preview window would scale up. And I don't know why it was changed, but a bunch of people bitched about it, but it was never changed back.
Sorry, what was the change?
In the early days of Mesh, the upload window, the little box that you view your mesh in, that would scale as you scaled up that window, the whole upload window.
Oh,
But
we would just scale with the size of the whole dialogue.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But at some point, it got locked, so you couldn't scale the window anymore, and that also locked the size of the inside window to view the mesh. A bunch of us bitched about it. I don't know why it was ever done, because to look at your mesh in that little tiny window is pretty ridiculous.
It was probably a side effect of something else that people were doing with the layout of the widgets or something. I doubt there was ever a requested feature that said, make it impossible to change the size of the preview window. Yeah, I mean, in terms of trying to improve the LODs, it's really you've really got two audiences, right? You've got content creators that you want to educate about why it's a good idea, and you've got customers that you want to understand. You want them to understand what they're getting and why it matters. And it's not really necessarily the same kinds of outreach for both of those, or they're not necessarily going to be looking in the same places either. Yeah, Brooke, fire away. You can ask questions in chat or voice if you like, whichever one. Yeah, there are some ways we could do more kind of automated analysis of the LODs to kind of characterize how reasonable a fit they are. It's it can get a little subtle because you're really trying to analyze shape rather than trying to analyze the constituent polygons, which uh, you know could get you into some complicated areas, but uh, it's worth thinking about. I don't have an ETA for animated meshes. It's coming along pretty well. I've been working recently on getting things to play nicely when you have link sets. So there's multiple meshes that are all in the same inventory object, and um, a lot of the pieces of that are working. There's a few places where the graphics pipeline gets unhappy if you change objects from animated to static or static to animated at the wrong time, and so we need to do a little more digging on that. But it's coming along okay there. But there's still a fair number of things we'd have to look at before we could get out as a project viewer. We'd have to have some way to at least some placeholder values for kind of how we're going to evaluate things like land impact. I'd have to decide, to either implement attachments or to disable them at least for now, rather than just having them do some crazy thing, which is probably what would happen if you tried it now. So there's a few different other pieces to look at. Yeah, can't tell you the time frame. It's kind of the same issue we ran into with Bento, where we're trying to change parts of the system that haven't been changed before, and so you don't really know how hard that is until you kind of get in and start banging on the code.
Isn't it going to be a little bit hard to adjust anything like land impact since like one of the main focuses here is to be able to take a mesh we already have, so it already has a score right now. So if that gets changed in any way, or are you thinking something more like adding something to it that
Yeah, we could just say, okay, if it's an animated object, then that adds, X amount to your land impact, that sort of thing. Um, And it's okay if we get the values wrong when we first go out to a project viewer, but we at least want to make sure that we kind of have the capability to tweak it, that we kind of know where the hooks are for that. Brooke has a question about a few different things that I'm not sure I can say too much about. There's increase in marketplace copybot accounts, reasoning behind not banning on the first offense, reasoning behind not IP banning, reasoning behind not taking the money back to Linden Lab. Yeah, none of those are really things that I have any contact with. I would hope you could get, uh, that you could bring some of those things up with support, but if you get into these kind of policy questions, whoever's managing that, uh, it's not necessarily something where all the details are going to be available publicly. So, but anyway, it's not really something I can comment anything on because I don't really know anything about it. I'm sorry, it's not intended as a copy paste answer. I really don't know anything about it. Do other people see an increase in uh, copybot issues, or is this I know it's been a concern for all along, but I don't know if it's something that's gone up recently. Yeah. So how does that manifest? You get somebody who comes in and just clones a whole bunch of content and sticks it up into their own account?
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, of course, if you've got full perm items, then you
Well,
don't
I'm
even need
I'm
any
talking
special
about
tools
there's
to rip them off.
the no copy issue, which isn't technically a copybotting issue. That's a glitch with the um, way you list on Marketplace and crashing the sim. But I mean, that's something that's old and is just a glitch that I don't understand why that hasn't been fixed. But I'm trying to avoid that. But I'm just talking about copybotting in general and why it hasn't been. Um, I just think it's been on the rise lately because it's not really. I think it's easier for people to. Um, you can file a DMCA or flag one of these listings, but the person that's doing it, the account isn't banned, and then they can relist it the next day. Um, and they can list the same item. And so and the money isn't taken away. And so there's no repercussions, I think, is the problem. And so um, that's what I see as being the issue. Um, that's my concern, I guess, is what I'm bringing up. And I just,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just what I wanted to talk about. Is
Yeah.
I see. I mean, I've been on Second Life for so many years, and it's so disheartening to see people's works being stolen. And I'm involved with the project, and so many people have mentioned copybotting to me, and it's sad to see that they're being taken over by these people that are getting their money, you know? And Linden Lab doesn't really seem to be doing anything about it. So I was just asking
Yeah. Sure. No, I
um,
understand. That's got to be super frustrating. As a technical problem, trying to prevent copying is obviously extremely hard because you're if you're in a 3D environment, then you basically have to send all the data to everybody's viewer for them to be able to see it.
absolutely, yeah,
So the technical side, it's difficult or impossible to do that in such a way that people can't steal the content. At least not without imposing sort of super onerous restrictions like you do all the rendering on the back end and just send people the screenshots or something like that. But it's in terms of the policy side, there obviously there are some hooks that we potentially have there, and I'm really not trying to be evasive. I don't have any visibility into how support handles that stuff. It's completely outside my wheelhouse as a developer.
Well,
right,
to be fair, Linden Lab has a kind of, damned if you do, damned if you don't type of a thing,
right,
but
yeah,
they don't police who actually owns the rights to things. So that's why they kind of leave it into the creator's hands to file a DMC, or forgive my dyslexia if I confuse those letters. But a better way of managing it on the marketplace would be nice to come up with at some point in time.
yeah. I just think it's odd how it's not how the accounts aren't banned. I was hearing from quite a few people that it takes up to, I think it's like 6 or 7 times that one account has to have a DMCA filed against them before Linden Lab will actually ban the account. Um, and so that just seems odd to me. Um, and then the money thing is just weird to me. That I just think that would stop it immediately. But anyways, it's just something I wanted to bring up. I don't want to take up the whole meeting. Thank you guys.
And
Yeah, of course, you can ban accounts, but it's not hard to make new accounts either.
exactly,
So it's
that's one thing that you guys are seem to be like ignoring. They're like, oh, well, we can just file a DCMA against it. But there are a lot of shady ass people in this game that will see you make something and they don't like it, and then they'll file the DCMA against you just to get it off the marketplace or to change the market in their favor. If somebody else is selling something else that they have, they'll file the reports against them to get their store shut down. Y'all know what stores I'm talking about. Y'all seen it happen. Don't pretend like you don't.
Well,
Personally,
maybe
if
in the
I was,
future it
go ahead.
I was just going to say maybe in the future, maybe London Lab would be willing to have a different meeting of that sort of thing so that a lot of people can maybe find a solution to cut down on some of the stuff.
Yeah, me personally, I'd rather see like a sting operation where if I was Linden Lab, I would create a whole bunch of copy bots, put them up on the place to download,
Now,
so that when somebody downloads a viewer that's a copy bot, because there's like maybe 99% Linden Lab copy bot viewers, and you log on with that copy bot viewer, it automatically flags that's a viewer account that logged on with the copy bot viewer, and
now,
it gets automatically banned.
hang on a second. There I want you to guys understand that there are legitimate uses for copybot. They're not all the evil, I'm stealing the store, I'm stealing this and stuff, but they can be used as a legitimate creation tool. I make countless videos, and I'm pretty sure how some of you are already throwing shade over there, acting like I'm not noticing it. No, that I teach people how to use copybots and how to use it to create and not to steal.
Somebody sold something that's non-modifiable. That was the creator's decision to sell it non-modifiable, because they might decide to sell a
But
modifiable version for more money, or they might decide, I created this item and I don't want it to be modifiable because I don't want somebody to mess up my artistic integrity for the thing they created.
okay, I
That's
can
the
understand
creator's
that.
decision.
Oh, sorry.
Now, if you're a creator and you've lost the DAE file or something like that of your mesh and you can't recreate it, I could see that might be a legitimate way of using a copybot to retrieve a mesh that you yourself had created, but that you can't, that you lost the DAE file, your computer blew up or something like that. That is one of the few reasons why I think you could use a copybot for a legitimate
And
purpose.
well, there are other reasons as well. Sometimes you have creators who are just straight up left and they're not supporting it. Then you have your own things when they ask you, can you make a mod for this? Can you help me fit this? I paid for it. It's not working. And the creators don't want to do it when you yourself can fix it. That's another way here. Or if you
Oh,
just want
sorry.
to add your own color to it when the creator is like, oh, well, I'm not going to, here's the item that you paid money for and I'm not going to change it. But you're like, well, I bought this. I should have the right to change what I want to change on it. You are
No,
given.
because when you bought it with those permissions, knowingly that that permission was non-modifiable. If you wanted something that's modifiable, you should have bought something that was marked modifiable. Everybody who sells stuff in Second Life, those permissions are made public before you buy it. If you don't want something that is non-modifiable, don't buy it.
But then they have the things that are mod, but you can't, the creator may not even know how to do it. So then I'm just saying, there are ways that copybotting can be used to help a person create, and there are ways that it can be used to destroy. And I don't think it's right to punish it all just because of it. Even something simple like building a house and prims, and then being able to convert that prim house into a mesh house with all your textures and your information and stuff like on there, using a copybot viewer to do that versus having to pay somebody,
But you don't need to.
5,000
You
linden for
can
it.
export what you create out of
You can
Firestorm.
export that, but you can do that out of Firestorm, and I know that. But when you try to do it with Firestorm, it doesn't allow you to grab all your textures and things like that.
Yes, it does.
You can,
as long as you're the original creator, it does.
if you
You don't
bought
need
the
a copybot viewer to do that. If it's all of the assets for your original creation,
if
you
you
can
bought all
export
of
it
the
out.
assets and stuff like that, and then you have it, it's good to be able to do it all in one rather than like, this is full perm, can I still export this? This is like, oh, this is copy, this person made a mistake, can you change the permissions? Oh wait, I'm not going to be on Second Life forever, so you can be able to export it. I'm just saying that there are ways you can use a copy bot to create rather than just stealing, what you guys are just like, oh well, yeah, stealing. It's not.
I didn't
Well, there's a
mean
difference
for this
between
to turn into like a whole thing, but I'm just saying I think it's becoming such an issue that people are they're leaving Second Life or becoming seriously dissuaded from creating content in certain ways. And so I wish that there was a meeting like this that could be dedicated to trying to figure out a way around this. That's all I'm saying. And I understand maybe you're not the right person to talk to about it, Burr, but it would be nice if there was a person that content creators could talk to and find a solution for this.
I was just going to say that there is a difference between modifying something for yourself that you bought. It's not going to harm that many people if you're just modifying something that you just bought for yourself and you're not going to redistribute.
Okay, that I agree with.
That's like a misdemeanor. It's still wrong, but it's a misdemeanor. Selling somebody else's creation or giving somebody else's creation away for free, that's basically a felony, in my opinion. So there are different levels of how bad is a copybot.
And that was the original concern that was raised, was people putting copies in the marketplace, right?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I agree with what you said, that if you bought it, you should be able to modify it for yourself. I don't agree with, copybotting it, modding it for this one avatar, then selling it from there because you're taking it from that seller. So I'm not totally evil,
Well, I'm not saying you should be able to modify something, anything that you bought. I was saying that it's a lesser of two evils as far as it's like a misdemeanor versus it's still illegal versus a felony, which is actually selling or redistributing somebody else's hard work that they put into it.
Okay, well, this really isn't the meeting for this topic. I certainly understand why people are concerned. The only the only aspect of this that really has to do with content creation, as such, is I think the questions about are there alternatives to people having to sell things full perm, and if they if they're able to distribute things non-full perm, that at least puts one obstacle in the way of copying it. Although obviously it doesn't prevent it. Um, but we're about out of time anyway. But if there are any other questions on other topics, we might have time for like one more.
I had one on the animated uh, rigged mesh, but I can't remember what the question is. Sorry.
I have a
Okay.
question on that too, which is very quick. Have you made progress, and do you know when we can get a test version in our hands yet?
Yes, I made progress. No, I don't know when I'll have a test version. I was talking about that a little bit earlier. I've been working with getting link sets to work, which means kind of one object in inventory that corresponds to multiple, prims. And that stuff is coming along well, but there's still a bunch of other things that are going to need to be looked at before we can actually get it out as a project viewer. So we'll keep you posted. I guess the other thing I should say is that we've had some changes to our internal meeting schedule, so I think we actually should be able to meet next week at the usual time. Normally we don't have a meeting on the first Thursday of the month, so I'll update the calendar on the wiki for that, and if anybody is free to swing by next week, we can chat then. Sorry, Lucia, say the question again. Root prim apply root or any link apply root. Not quite sure what you're referring to there. Yes, I mean the idea is that you've got a single skeleton that's associated with the applying the skeleton. Oh, is it UI or script? That is there's a UI element to basically check a box to say, okay, make this thing animatable. So it's a persistent property of the object, um, and then once something is animatable, then there's a skeleton that's basically associated with the root prim, and any rigged children of that prim will also be animated by the same skeleton. Jira about auto splitting, creating badly broken meshes. High triangle counts on a single material or face. Is this changed recently? Okay, yeah, I'm not aware of any recent work on this, but it's possible that it's been broken for quite a while. Okay, I'll take a look at that. Thanks. All right, well, I guess we're about time for this week. Thanks for coming, everybody, and as I say, we will we will see you next week, contrary to the usual schedule, or at least anybody who swings by. Have a good one.